What's up guys, Manny from Motomillion. It's time for the first mods. Well, we're officially starting our 2025 Panigale V4 build and it's time for the first mods. And no, these beautiful BSD StarTech wheels are not going on this bike. We'll let you know at the end of the video what they're here for. But what we have today is radiator and oil cooler guards, TWM fuel cap, TWM spools, TWM caliper spacers, TWM front axle slider, and our TWM levers. But now we gotta take the side fairings off and get access to the radiator, and I'm gonna show you with only 200 miles how beat up the radiator guard and why you should install your radiator guards once we get everything off. But enough talking, more working, let's get started. Well, we saved our bolts, you just saw that. Now, I gotta show you here. So this is the chassis mount for the winglets, and it's impossible to cross-thread something when you're pulling it out, so it got cross-threaded when the bike was getting assembled. So we're just gonna say, thank you Geppetto for doing this on a Friday, because I bet you this bike was built on a Friday. But now we're gonna try to fix this, so that when we're putting everything back together, everything is nice. And let's see if we could save it, because the bolt was fixed. Yeah, this is pretty good. I think we got it. We fixed Ducati's mess up with the bolts. We tapped it, and we also used the die set to fix the bolt. And now we prepped our EvoTech radiator guards. All the grommets are in place. And I want to show you guys that if you get one of these things, if you want to remove this piece here, it actually is just clipped in, so you could remove it if you don't want it. I know some of you guys don't like logos. And then before I put this in, I'm going to show you why we're actually installing radiator guards, because we only have 280 miles on this beautiful motorcycle, but our radiator already is kind of beat up a little bit because of these sticky tires, and just any rocks or dirt on the road will just get flinged up. That's why you'll know that we go through this trouble in the beginning to install these things, so that our cooling efficiency stays the same from factory, and also on top of it, we want to make sure that we don't puncture that radiator, because it does happen. I've heard it too many times from you guys. I don't know how this is coming out on camera, guys, but there is quite a few bent fins already, and like I said, it's only 280 miles. The air goes through these fins over here, which then cools the coolant that's inside this radiator, and the same thing with the oil cooler that's below. But this over time will just reduce the efficiency of your radiator, and that's why we install the radiator guards. Guard is on, and the oil cooler guard is on as well. So if you're trying to do this at home, and that's how we ended up here, unfortunately this is not an instructional video how to do it, but I'll give you a tip. When you take everything off, you have to undo your oil cooler, not the lines, but there's pegs that hold it in place, and also there's nuts in the back. Pull this fairing forward, and also this fairing is attached from the top to the chassis of the bike, and also to the radiator on the top with the top bolts. Just take everything out, pull this forward, and be gentle. You have enough room just to squeeze your radiator guards in. The oil cooler guards are pretty easy. You just go from the other side, from the left side of the bike when you're sitting on it, and you just slide it in, make sure everything is nice and firmly in place. And it's looking great. It's all black now. We know that it's protected. We could go ride and put more miles on this. Now I got to put everything back together, because anything else that we're installing doesn't require the fairings to be off. But I'm already dreading it, because we're going to do a windscreen sooner or later, and we have the carbon winglets here already, but we're not installing it on this episode. That means that we got to take everything off again, but at least we got some experience on how to get it off, and next time it'll be smoother. back on, so it looks like a 2025 Panigale V4 again, guys. Our radiator and oil cooler guards are on. Now the bike's protected. I'm gonna get to put much more miles because we wanna do that 620 mile service. It's 1,000 kilometers for the first service so that we could get that done. And if you are wondering how to take off the fairings, we're gonna have a separate instructional video on how to take it off. It's not as straightforward as the previous generation. Well, the previous generation, when it was brand new, wasn't straightforward, and this has some puzzles and riddles in there to solve. It's not that hard though. Speaking of putting a lot of miles on the bike, that means we're going to use up a lot of fuel, and we're going to use our TWM fuel cap that I have right here. We're going with the aluminum one. There is the carbon fiber ones as well. The installation is the same as the previous generation Panigales as well, so we're going to have to take off the fuel cap, dissect that underpiece that it has on it, which is called a flange, and then install it onto this and install everything back on. There is already an instructional video on our YouTube channel on how to get that done. But let's do that because we have other pieces to put on. They're going to be fairly quick pieces to install, and then that'll finish our first mods. But before I could say that, let's get this on and let's put the other pieces on, and we'll take a look at how good it looks. The TWM fuel cap's on. It already looks much better. I really like the contrast between the red and the black. Now we could just quarter turn, open, fill up, and put this back and continue on our way. I'm going to go ahead and install the spools because that's very easy to do, and then we'll move to the front of the bike where we install the front fork slider and the caliper spacers. And I think that's going to be it. But let's get those done, and then we'll move to the front and we'll admire the beauty of this beautiful 2025 Panigale V4. Here's our caliper spacers. You're probably wondering what are caliper spacers. So it spaces the caliper out. It has a 5mm spacer from the factory. The top one is a spacer and a reflector, and we use these things to take it out. You could also go and order one of these plain looking spacers from your dealership and put it on there, just a couple cents. But while we're here, we want to put some color, we want to put some red. It really matches the Brembo's red over here, so that's what we're going to do. For our axle sliders and our fork protectors, as the name suggests, it provides some protection for the axle and the forks, but I think the main reason why we're putting it on is it's going to look great because it has a black and red. It's going to match everything. This fork is black because this bike is a base. Somebody might call this a gray fork actually because it has that grayish blackish look, but I'll let you in for a little secret. We already have our Öhlins forks over here. We just have to do a couple other things in terms of mods before we want to put our forks on the bike. Also, we're trying to figure out the rear shock. We think we got the rear shock, but we're just going to have to wait and see. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's get this on, then we'll put the levers on. Now it's time for the levers. It's the classic TWM GP adjustable levers. We love these things because their ergonomics are great, but also they have a span adjustment so that you can move the lever front or back given your preference and also your hand size. We love these things. Let's get them on. And then before I let you go, if you made it this far, I'm going to tell you what those wheels are there for. Well, those were our first mods for our 2025 Panigale V4. Just like any other video, all the products that we use on today's video is in the link in the description below. There's one thing that we haven't used yet, and it's these BST StarTech wheels, and I promise you guys I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it, because these are single-sided swing arm models. It's not going to work on the 2025s anymore, but if you look over here, we have 650 Eve's very own 1199R. We have it here because, as a surprise, we're going to be redoing this motorcycle completely, and if you're watching this video as it's released, it's the beginning of 2025. It's our first video. I want to wish all of you guys a happy new year. I wish you all the best, and thank you for all your support. 2024 was great. 2025 is going to be even better, and these wheels are going to go on this bike alongside with a host of other mods. These wheels that are on the bike right now, we're not going to mention any names. You probably know what they are. They're not even holding air because that tire is completely flat. I promise to be very transparent and tell you guys what's going on with it and why we're switching to these wheels. But if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Until next time, guys, have a good one.